I figured out what the Blob is and how it's connected to what happened to the pizzaplex that led to the Ruin DLC. So we need to first understand what the Blob is, which is also formerly known as Tangle, is an amalgamation, which is a fancy word for combination, of various animatronics that we first saw in terms of the games at the end of Security Breach as a sort of secret antagonist. And as the name suggests, Tangle is a huge mass of wire tentacles and animatronic parts. Its main head is a mask that appears to be Funtime Freddy's, but with glossy black eyes and pinkish red glowing pupils. When we see it attack, its endoface reveals to have metal plates lacking coils and galvanized wires. The Blob appears to be a larger version of Molten Freddy after the Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria Simulator fire, but is far more grotesque and mixed with parts of more animatronics and endoskeletons. If you look closely, you can see the parts of the other old animatronics, such as pieces of Circus Baby, the Puppet, Chica, Mangled, Bonnie, and several Endo O2s, and likely many others that are just not at the surface level. All of the eyes in the animatronic heads are glowing, meaning they are still alive, with the exception of Baby and Marionette, as she lacks eyes and Baby's are colored black. Why is that? Well, it's theorized that her soul has passed on, but that's for another time. It's also important to note that the Blob is around the same size as DJ Music Man, which makes it one of the largest characters in Five Nights at Freddy's. So the Blob's mind is that of a mindless monster, only really speaking with simple grunts and screeches that are both deep and distorted. It will also make low and sort of mechanical snoring noises as well. This would suggest that all of the animatronics that make up the Blob are the ones constantly fighting over each other to take control. But regardless, they all still appear to retain the motivation of a deep desire for vengeance against Glitchtrap. Now, like I said, the Blob is a mass combination of many animatronics, with the souls of William's victims, which harbor hate towards him specifically. Although another theory is that it is filled with the souls of those victims and also collects agony-infused items, if you will. This causes the Blob to grow even without more animatronics. But regardless of what you think it's completely made up of, it will still attack whatever comes near it. Although from what I've seen, it won't attack the Glamrock animatronics. And this is because these animatronics are corrupted by Vanny's control, which means they do not directly have human souls trapped inside them. And that's why the Blob won't attack them. It's looking for human souls, more so Afton himself, hence it attacking only Gregory when it's around the Glamrock animatronics. The Blob knows Gregory is human, but I'll come back to that in a moment. Now, before the Ruin DLC, the Blob had only been seen in Security Breach in the Burn Trap ending route of the game, and where the Blob resides can be accessed via the old elevator below the establishment, which is locked by the gate using Glamrock Chica's voice box. It can be seen sleeping by the entrance of the main floor guarding it, and can only be passed by if Gregory is safely hidden inside of Glamrock Freddy. If Gregory does not enter the area inside of Glamrock Freddy, Tangle will attack him. At the end of Security Breach, during the fight against Burn Trap, the Blob will attempt to attack Gregory using his wire tentacles via the manhole covers throughout the office. Although Gregory can prevent the Blob's tentacles from appearing at all by staying in a particular area of the office, or by keeping Roxanne active within the office as she attacks due to the Blob appearing directly after she leaves. Although if Gregory makes contact with any of these tentacles, the Blob will attack him. Now, it can also be driven away from its attack during the sequence by walking across the office inside Glamrock Freddy, as it will attract its tentacles back into the manhole covers. This further proves the idea of why the Blob won't attack the Glamrock animatronics. They do not have souls. It only attacks the human, being Gregory, in hopes that Gregory is Afton. Although there is a theory that the Blob is trying to keep specifically Burn Trap there from leaving, and only attacks Gregory due to not wanting him or others to let Burn Trap out, but that's also only speculation. Upon defeating Burn Trap, the ending cinematic cutscene will play. We then see Burn Trap attempting to escape the fire of his room, only for the Blob to unexpectedly descend down from the ceiling behind him and scream before using its mechanical tentacles to pull Burn Trap up into the ceiling with it, ultimately forcing Burn Trap into becoming part of the Blob. Okay, so now that we know what the Blob is and its recent events connecting it to Security Breach, how did the Blob cause the events of the Ruin DLC? Well, the Blob reappears near the beginning of Ruin, where it can be seen inside of a hole in the wall at the bottom of a staircase. It quickly sinks away and goes out of the view once the player gets near it, and disappears for the rest of the DLC. So now we know it's still around and it didn't attack Cassie, it kinda ran away. This also helps the case that it was only attacking to keep Burntrap from escaping. And also at the beginning of Ruin, we can find newspapers on the ground with headlines reporting that there was an earthquake which caused the pizzaplex to fall into ruin. But clearly this was just a cover-up story for what actually happened. Later into the DLC, when entering the remains of Roxy Raceway, Cassie remarks that the whole place had collapsed. Gregory in response tells her that the earthquake was caused by something tunneling out of the underground area. So what could have caused that? Well, of course, it was the Blob. Now, it's heavily implied that this creature, the Blob, dug its way out from the sunken pizzeria. And like I had mentioned, we last saw the Blob in one of the staircases near the entrance, which is above ground. So clearly it's no longer stuck underneath the pizzaplex. So what does this mean? The Blob is what caused the start of the events of the Ruin DLC. These massive tunnels underneath the pizzaplex were made by the Blob. It was stuck underneath the original pizzeria which the pizzaplex was built over. So for all of those years, the Blob was able to make these tunnels, which included the cave that we find. By doing this, the Blob hollowed out what was underneath the pizzaplex, causing it to collapse, putting the pizzaplex into a state of ruin. Now, I've talked about what comes next after the events of the DLC, but what does this mean for the Blob? We know it's no longer stuck underground, so where is it going? Well, right now we can only speculate, so we'll have to wait until the next DLC to find out. Let me know what you think happens next for the Blob in the comments. Thanks for watching.